if your OODA loop in a dogfight with another pilot is faster than the other pilot, you will shoot them out of the sky. If your ability to observe, orient, decide, and act is faster than the other pilot, you will shoot them out of the sky. Unfortunately, if their OODA loop is faster than yours, they'll shoot you out of the sky. Right now, our national OODA loop is completely discombobulated. We do not wake up in this country every day observing, orienting, deciding, and acting. Basically, we wake up in this country, at least at the political level, with one party saying, how do I take this crowbar and stick it in the wheel of the other party so I can win this 24-hour news cycle? Our OODA loop is completely broken. And the reason our OODA loop is broken is that our politics is broken. Our political system is completely dysfunctional. Our Congress has become a forum for legalized bribery. It is nothing short of that, okay? I wish people didn't feel like clapping, but I feel like clapping even. And my industry is part of this. Not only is the political system more and more polarized, thanks to the gerrymandering of political districts down to the atomic level now. So I can get someone in East Spokane who's a Democrat off into one district and someone who's in West Spokane into a Republican district. So you end up with a Congress where basically very few seats are contested. They're automatically a Republican or a Democratic district. What does that mean? It means the primary is the real election, when two Republicans or two Democrats face off, because the district's automatically one or the other. And when the primary is the real election, it means the Democrat can only be beaten by someone to his left, so he goes even farther left, and the Republican can only beat someone from his right, so she goes farther to the right. And you end up with a Congress where 100 people sleep in their offices, don't talk to each other, go home every weekend, and is utterly polarized. Then you got my industry. We all know, I got liberal TV and conservative TV. And you can go to the internet now and get your news. Forget the New York Times. Go to that website that will give you the news that exactly reinforces your bias. So you never have to read anybody else's point of view, reflect on it, or take it into account. And so we end up with the political system we've got today, where there was a famous saying about America, that America in the end, Churchill said, in the end, America will always do the right thing after it exhausts all the other possibilities. People said, well, we'll get over this problem when we have a crisis. We had a crisis. We had the biggest financial crisis since the Depression. And what worries me is that the system cannot respond. It is so broken. How do we get out of that? How do we change this? Well, if you followed my writing and what we argue in the book, I think we need a third party. I'm a big believer that life is about incentives. Life's about incentives. And what's going on in our politics now is all the incentives are wrong. All the incentives are to be as polarized as possible. The money incentives, the media incentives. And the only way you change that, because politicians are rational people, they're going where they think the incentives are. They wouldn't be behaving this way if they didn't feel the incentives were there. And the only way to change that is to change the incentives. I'm a big believer. Move the cheese, you move the mouse. Don't move the cheese, the mouse doesn't move, okay? We have to move the cheese. And to move the cheese, you need a third party whose position is the only position that is sustainable. We need to do three things, friends. We need to cut spending because we've made promises to our kids we cannot possibly keep. We need to raise revenue because if we just cut spending, if we try to do this all with spending cuts, we will cut into real bone and meat. And thirdly, we need to invest. We need to invest in the sources of our strength, whether it's infrastructure or research or education. We need to do all three of those things at once. That's the third-party position. Unfortunately, we have one party that just wants to cut. We have one party that doesn't just want to tax, but wants to tax more. And we have no party right now whose position is all three at the scale we really need. Which is why we advocated in the book a third party. Now, people say a third party will never work. You have to understand, a third party doesn't have to win to change our politics. Ask Teddy Roosevelt about that in 1912. He redefined American politics. George Wallace did it in 1968, not in a way I liked, but he had a huge impact on politics. And Ross Perot in 1992. People forget Ross Perot at one point had 40% of the vote on his single-issue deficit reduction ticket. He eventually won almost 20%. And he was nuts, okay? So imagine if a Michael Bloomberg or someone had run on a third-party ticket this time of cut, raise revenue, and invest. Because unless you move the cheese, I tell you, it doesn't matter who gets elected. We're going to be in the same situation, sitting around waiting for the market or Mother Nature or both to really give us a whack. Because that's really what we're doing now. We're taunting the two most powerful and emotionless forces on the planet, the market and Mother Nature. We're basically saying to both of them, what you got, baby? What you got? What you got? One day we're going to wake up. Somebody's going to lose their job. Somebody's extra is not on duty tonight. All right, I've talked long enough. Let me conclude by saying this. By now, you're saying, hey, Friedman, when you started, you said you were an optimist, frustrated optimist. We get the frustration. But where from comes your optimism? I'm going to be really honest with you. Drugs. I use a lot of drugs. No. It's just a joke. Nobody tweet that, okay? It's just a joke. No, my optimism actually comes from the fact that in this job, I get to travel all over the country. And what I learned from those travels, and it's the title of the third to last chapter in this book, is that, thank God, this country is still full of people who just didn't get the word. Thank God. They didn't get the word that China's going to eat our breakfast. They didn't get the word that Germany's going to eat our lunch. And they just go out and they invent stuff, and they start stuff, and they collaborate on stuff. Thank God they just didn't get the word. One of my favorite quotes in this book is from a Marine colonel who, when we asked him, why did you guys surge in Iraq? He said, Tom, we were just too dumb to quit. And thank God this country is still full of people just too dumb to quit. And I know this from my travels. I show up here, and Thane gives me a tour around the campus and drives me over here, and he says, that's our new medical school going in over there. They're building here in Spokane. I'm thinking to myself, you're building a new medical school? Didn't you people get the word? We're in a recession. Bless you for that. But the reason I know this is I do get to travel a lot around the country. In my previous book, I wrote a book about energy, Hot, Flat, and Crowded. And I went all over America talking about energy, clean energy, new technologies. And it was amazing to me. At the end of every talk, I'd do a book signing. People would come up and say, Mr. Friedman, I've got to tell you about my invention. I've got a clean energy invention. I've got a duck. It paddles a wheel, blows up a balloon, issues methane, turns a turbine. I heard the craziest stuff, okay? But what it told me is the country is actually exploding with innovation from the bottom up. You want to be an optimist about America? Stand on your head. This country looks so much better from the bottom up. It's still alive down there. It's really alive. I meet young people everywhere starting things. Thank God. I would do these energy talks, and afterwards, I'd go back to my hotel room. I'd empty my pockets of business cards from energy innovators. Rock stars get room keys. I get business cards. But they're really exciting in their own way. Because they not only tell me that the country is alive, they tell me, what should we be talking about in this election? What should be the platform one of these two men is running on? And to me, that platform is obvious. How do we make America for the world what Cape Canaveral was for America? What was Cape Canaveral for America? That was the place we launched our one moonshot. We had one launching pad, and we had one big national moonshot. We're not going to have one big national moonshot again. What I want America, to be the launching pad where everyone in the world wants to come to launch their moonshot, to start something, to show off their extra. Why? Because we have the best schools, the best universities, the best government-funded research, the smartest tax policy, the best infrastructure, the fastest internet, the most rule of law, the best intellectual property protection. Let's make America the launching pad for the world. We do that, good things will happen. There'll not only be plenty of jobs for the software writer and the engineer, but plenty of jobs for the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. And that's why whenever you want to know why I'm an optimist, it's because, thank God, even the politics of this country can't kill the energy coming up from below. If I were to draw a picture of America today, it would be a picture of the space shuttle taking off. You've seen the space shuttle take off when we were still doing the space shuttle. All that incredible thrust coming from below, that's all that energy down there that's still there. Unfortunately, right now, our space shuttle, our country, the fuselage is cracked and leaking energy, and the pilots in the cockpit are fighting over the flight plan. That's what we need to fix. That fuselage, that's all the things we do. Education, infrastructure, the right rules, government-funded research, immigration. We need to fix that fuselage and get back to all the things that made us great. And we need to find a way to get the pilots to stop fighting over the flight plan. We do that. We are like 3 big decisions away from actually a melt-up in this country, a melt-up in the stock market. Just get that fiscal thing in order, get our energy policy in order, get our immigration policy in order, make some good long-term decisions on education, and all that energy, I tell you, it will just explode. We did this before. It's why our book has a backward-looking title, That Used to Be Us, but a forward-looking theme. It's because we didn't get here by accident. We did this before. The history books we need to read, friends, are our own. The country we need to rediscover is America. That used to be us, and it can be again. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.